Hi guys, welcome back to the next part of the series. Today we're going to continue with this upper piece right here. I'm already in the sculpt mode and I've already selected it. So the thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into my R, which is my resolution, and we're going to give it a relatively small resolution. Something, I think, 0.01, 0.02, that's fine. Control R to dynamesh or remesh this thing and get this into this position. I do want to keep this one symmetrical, so I am going to turn on the X symmetry, and we're going to start with our scrape brush to just bevel a couple of the different sections. Let me just make sure that I find where my front view is. This is my front view. Okay, perfect. So yeah, it's just a matter of hitting a couple of these parts and getting the shapes that we want. So this is going to give the whole piece a little bit more again, kind of like handcrafted effect. And it should allow us to generate a very nice piece. I'm gonna go a little bit heavy here. I think my brush just got like freaked out again because I opened Photoshop. I'm gonna show you something real quick. So let me reset. I'm just gonna show you how to reset very easily. I'm just gonna save this as X4. We just close Blender. Let me close all of this right here. I'll explain where I got all of this in just a second. And let's go to Blender. There we go. So just open X number 4 and we should be exactly where we left off. There we go. Now this is working a lot better. So there is a guy who goes by the name of Michael Cuevas, and he released a very nice set of brushes for ZBrush that are called the Orb brushes. You can look them up. They're completely free. And of course you can donate. He shares them on Gumroad. And someone else took those brushes and decided to extract the information from them so that we could use them inside of Blender as well. So what I have done is I have taken some of those brushes, to be precise, I took 3 of those brushes to accelerate the creation of this piece right here. So for instance, one of the things that I see is that on the front view, which would be like right here, we do have a nice like sharp line, but as we go to the side, this starts becoming a little bit rounder. So one thing that we can do here is we can start like rounding this off a little bit and see how nicer and more like organic this whole shape starts to look. That doesn't mean that we're not going to be adding the what's the word? The big like slashes right there. We're still going to add those, but as you can see, this no longer looks like a 6-sided cylinder. It starts looking more as a round effect or a round piece that was forged or sculpted by the blacksmith that created this weapon. And this is one of the things that I love about sculpting Blender, ZBrush, Maya, anywhere, and that's the fact that you can change a piece that was looking very, very simple, very geometric, and convert it into something that looks very, very nice. Now, the brushes that I just mentioned, one of the cool things about those is that we have some alphas that we can use. So I'm going to go here to texture, and we're going to add a new texture right here. So if we go to our textures over here, right now this is the alpha texture, right? This is the one that we were using. So I'm just going to replace this on our alphas, and I'm going to open a new alpha. It's this, orb/3, orb/A, and orb/4. Let's start with orb/A. I'm going to hit open image. And as you can see, it's this sort of like diamond shape. So now if we drag and drop, as you can see, we're going to be able to generate a very, very nice cut. We need to do this with control so it goes in. And one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to increase the strength quite a bit with this one. So when we do this, as you can see, we're going to be pushing the cut right into the surface of the element very, very strongly. We're doing this symmetrically, by the way. So this is a perfect way to get this sort of result. I'm going to control R immediately. And then now that we have that base, it's going to be a lot easier to just go in, for instance, with my draw sharp and start cleaning this up a little bit more. So for instance, we can give it a sharper line here on the outside. And then we can use, of course, our scrape brush to really like nail down this sort of effect. Again, keep in mind that this is a small piece of the overall projects. So as long as it reads like that big scratch, that's going to be more than enough. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful. It reads very, very nice. Let's go back to our draw brush and let's bring another one. So again, control, and we're going to push this in right there. This one I'm going to have it a little bit higher up, so right around there. And then we can again change the alpha over here. Let's use a /3, which is like a very nice or thin one. We might need a little bit more resolution. So let's give this a little bit more resolution. And we're also going to push that one. We can, of course, smooth it. Give it the resolution again. Smooth. And use our draw sharp. So these alphas are an excellent way in which we can utilize them to to get us closer to the final result without having to do everything manually. And as you keep going on your career and you keep like adding to your library, you're gonna have so many like brushes, alphas, presets, scripts, plugins, so many things that are gonna make you a very strong artist as well. However, my advice with like all of these things, including this brushes that we're using right now, is it's always good to use these tools, but you also should be able to do it without the tools, because during a production, you might find yourself with a specific part of the project that there's no plugin for, there's no brush for, there's no specific solution for it. So that's where your skills as an artist will come into play, and you're gonna be able, or you're gonna have to find a way to deal with all of the things that you might face on that specific part of the project. So that's why when you like, for instance, when I went to school, the teachers there were very like um, what's the word, pre persuasive in making sure that we didn't depend on, on plugins or on specific like assets that you could get. Because another thing that is it's true of the production pipeline is there might be certain tools that you are used to using that require a license, and sometimes when you go into a big studio, they won't buy the license, and if they don't buy the license, then well, you're out of luck, and you can't even use like your personal license, because the legal agreements and things that they have are completely different. So in those cases, you're gonna have to deal with those consequences, and you're gonna have to do the exact same thing that you were expecting the plugin to do for you by hand, right? So in this case, if I couldn't use these brushes, I know that I could still create that nice like indentation on this part of the element. Now we're gonna go to the last piece, which is this one right here. This one's a lot more organic. You can see here it has way more cuts. So we're gonna go to this one again, Alt and Q to jump into this one. And we're gonna go R and give it a nice like low amount. Control R, there we go. And the first thing I'm gonna do is with the scrape brush, of course we're gonna activate symmetry, and with the scrape brush I'm gonna start cleaning all of these lines to make this again a more like sort of like metallic look, like hammered metal sort of effect. There we go. So clean all of those. Those are the lines from the low poly, because even though it might look soft, it was just the mesh display that had that. Like we didn't really have like any support edges or anything, so that's why it's not looking exactly like what we had. I still feel like this is very like symmetrical. I would like to. I think I'm gonna use my grab brush here to push this line up a little bit more, so this looks like a little bit taller on this upper side. There we go. And now, as you can see, this one is it's not like perfectly cylindrical. It's got way more hits. So I'm gonna go with my clay strips, make the brush a lot smaller, and I'm gonna start carving in a little bit more heavily. Go then again with a scrape, flattening those new areas that I just created. I'm flattening the border here as well. Clay strips. Let's bring this all the way down. I'm not sure how to explain this, like the kind of like detail that I'm seeing. It's just an interesting construction, and the ideal thing is for us to try to match it as close as possible. Go over here after the one of the spikes, we have a big hit. Let's do it a little bit more manually in this case. I know we have the alphas, but as I just mentioned, it's always good to be able to do it on your own. Let's do Control R. Definitely need a little bit more resolution. So we can really go in there and generate this detail. And we're gonna go with the scrape brush, flatten the outer edges so that cut looks a lot more like natural and intense in this case. Let's go draw sharp. Push that in. Well, R. Now it's just maybe like a small little scratch right there. Again, scrape brush. And we're just gonna polish all of this a little bit more. Go. There we go. Let's bevel a little bit of the, like all of those lines that we had from the original mesh, I definitely want them gone. There we go. Look at that. Not freaking bad. Like the whole thing is looking very, very nice. And I know that we can still add more, like more interesting shapes later on the texturing side of things. But so far, like this sculpt looks really, really nice. So yeah, just to finalize, my friends, again, one of the things that I always like to explain several times is take your time. Take your time. I'm trying to do this in a way that's, of course, entertaining and instructive, but this is the kind of stuff that you could spend hours and hours just like finicking? Finicking, is that the proper word? Tinkering with? So you can just start, like, keep tinkering with it and polishing it and making sure it looks as good as you can, like as good as possible. Now, I do want to include a one final chapter. I thought this was going to be the final chapter, final video of this chapter, but there's one more thing I want to talk about, which is the optimization thing. So at the time of this, or at this moment, now that we have all of these pieces, if we were to go to the layout section, you're going to see that here under statistics, there we go. We have 5 million triangles on the screen because of all of the different pieces right here. So it definitely feels like we're a little bit high on poly count, and I want to show you a couple of ways in which we can reduce this so that once we start like working on the next area, which is going to be the hammer, we can get a little bit more performance. So yeah, that's it for this one, my friends. I'll see you back on the next video.